What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we have the Proving Grounds Grandmaster Nightfall guide for Destiny 2 episode Revenant, showcasing an incredible loadout for each different class, as well as a bunch of tips for the strike itself to help you guys beat this week's Grandmaster as fast and easily as possible. And so, let's get started. Now, first things first, let's go over the modifiers you need to know about. And yet again, we have some really interesting brand new ones for this season. So, taking a look, most of these modifiers are pretty standard until you get to the self-build crafting section and you have Void Hunger. Savathun has loaned you a worm. When it hungers, deal damage of the focused type to satiate it. When the worm is full, your ability regeneration is increased. If the worm starves, your ability regeneration is reduced and you take increased damage from the focused damage type. Okay, really interesting, and essentially what is going to happen when you are playing with this modifier active is that randomly in the left corner of your screen, as you can see, you will have a bar, a Void Hunger bar. And as you deal damage with void weapons or void abilities, that bar is going to fill. Now, you can essentially have the bar end, like the Void Hunger effect stops, and then you're going to have either a negative effect if you weren't able to fill it enough, or if you're able to get past that like first break, the halfway point, you'll get a little bit of an effect. But if you do a bunch of void damage and you actually fill up the bar entirely, then as you can see, you will get improved ability regen. And importantly, ability seems to be super as well. I was using my super so much within this Grandmaster, so you can actually use this modifier as a positive, as a really powerful increase to your build. Now, after that, we have overcharged sniper rifles, and then we have arc surge and stasis surge, and the champions are going to be unstoppable and barrier. So let's talk about those loadouts. First of all, for myself, I was on a Titan, and I was using my ability spam prismatic build. I made a video on this a while back. I still love this build, and it's extremely good with Void Hunger specifically. And my exotic armor piece is a Stoicism with Spirit of Inmost Light, Spirit of Armamentarium, so I'm rewarded for spamming all of my abilities. As for my weapons, I have a Lost Signal here, just a fantastic area denial frame grenade launcher, really easy to keep weaken on champions, mini-bosses, and the boss with this thing. And then for my primary, I have the Graviton Lance. And this right here is the cheat code for this week's Grandmaster. This is going to make Void Hunger so easy to trigger because you just use a fantastic exotic Void primary. Primary for infinite ammo. The Graviton Lance is god tier on its own because it's a pulse rifle. It can stun the unstopped champions, and anytime you see that Void Hunger bar in the corner of your screen, you fill it up with the Graviton after even just a few kills if it activates its exotic ability and causes all of those void explosions. Like really fantastic weapon for this particular Grandmaster. And then after that, I'm doubling down on Void even more with a God Roll Edge Transit for DPS output. And you can see all of the armor mods I was using right here. Of course, pause the video if you want to copy them exactly, but pretty standard stuff, frankly. And then for the seasonal artifact, really the only thing you need beyond a doubt is going to be that concussive reload to give your grenade launchers weaken. Aside from that, it's really up to you. Moving on from there, guys, for the Hunter, again, we are going all in on Void to take advantage of that extra ability regen. So we have a Night Stalker Hunter here. And this build is going to focus on invisibility thanks to our featured exotic armor piece being the Gear Falcons. So this gives your void weapons volatile rounds when you break invisibility, and as long as you have Stylish Executioner, when you get kills with volatile weapons, you go invisible. So essentially you just transition between shooting your volatile weapons, going invisible, shooting volatile weapons. You basically have 100% uptime on invisibility and volatile rounds and just go between those things. Now as for the weaponry here, we have a Hung Jury as our scout rifle to deal with those barrier champions. Then we have a Velocity Baton god tier Void Area Denial Frame Grenade Launcher, and then we actually do have a Leviathan's Breath. This turned out to be fantastic against the tanks, and we'll get to that when we go over the strike itself, but it also can stun unstopped champions, and it's void. Moving on from there, you can see all of the different armor mods right here. Again, pretty standard stuff for this build. Double Void Weapon Surge, so we can get an advantage with our Void Weapons. Now, after that, guys, for the Warlock, we were just using a standard Speaker's Sight, like, healing grenade spam build, right? So here's the interesting part. This teammate was like, I'm completely ignoring the void stuff. I'm just going to see how well this build works within the Grandmaster without the extra ability regen. And essentially because Ember of Benevolence is so broken, he was like, I didn't even notice my abilities respawning less. Like, obviously, they are going to respawn less. When we look at the weapons here, we have, first of all, the Mountaintop, and this is going to just be a great grenade launcher. And then we have a Polaris Lance here, again, to deal with those barrier champions. This is a fantastic weapon on its own for dealing with barrier champions. And then for a heavy, we have the Bittersweet Grenade Launcher. You could easily just use a Void Scout Rifle and a different exotic if you want to make the most of Void Hunger. But I'm showing this build and I'm telling you my teammates' experience, because if you don't want to change your build around Void, you don't actually have to. Again, if you have a god tier build like the Speaker's Sight Solar Warlock build I'm showing right here, you don't really need to change anything. But moving on from there to the tips for the strike itself. First of all, when you begin, you can actually skip past all of these opening enemies, go up here with your Sparrow, and then shoot down on this unstopped champion and kind of move forward from there in terms of adds. Then you are going to just have a bunch more random champions and enemies you need to deal with, and then you kind of get to this first mini boss. Now, this mini boss is going to spawn out here, and when you get this guy down to the halfway point, they're going to spawn a shield around them. This is where things get a little bit tricky, because as you can see, we sent the invisibility hunter in. I guess they weren't too invisible because they got stomped immediately and killed. Yeah, you're going to want to go in on the kind of opposite side of the bubble as wherever this mini boss is. And importantly, guys, this is the strat you want to use. You want to put the shield generator between yourself and the boss. If the boss turns and starts shooting at you, he'll just shoot his own shield generator. Like, it won't actually get to you. So you want to be directly across from the boss, and then you can just kill that shield generator, no problem, and then finish killing the boss. Now, after that, guys, you're going to head inside, and I just want to point out, look at the Void Hunger bar. Like, it is giving us Void Starvation, even though we're in a traversal section and there's no enemies around. So you might just end up kind of getting screwed by this modifier. If you do, just wait. Like, if you get lower ability regen, you can simply wait until it appears again and then, you know, move forward and start damaging enemies to fill it up. So just something to be aware of. Now, as you drop down into this next section, we like to go and hold out over on the left right here behind this piece of cover. One healing grenade with the Speaker Sight is going to hold down this area and keep everyone alive pretty easily. And again, you can see me absolutely spamming my super because I'm getting it so darn often. But importantly, while you are holding out here, enemies are going to push you. You can see there's some times where war beasts are charging, but one pulse grenade can pretty much handle them. And eventually, after you kill a couple of mini-bosses and some champions in this area, you're going to have two massive Cabal tanks spawn. However, in the gameplay, you might not even notice them because, frankly, I barely noticed them, and that's because the Levy's Breath absolutely demolished these guys, as I said earlier. Like, the guy with the Levy's Breath simply was hitting the four different, I guess, legs or thrusters, whatever you want to call them, and just cranked both of the tanks by himself very easily, especially because we are using those weakening grenades, stuff like the Levy's Breath, stuff like sniper rifles, like with a weaken effect that's so easy to apply, you just destroy these tanks with any sort of like precision weaponry. But moving on from there, guys, as you get further into the Cabal land tank, you're going to get underneath the giant like treads right here. And I want to mention this because it's very important. You can get hit by random debris, random rocks in this section, and you can die. So make sure to not have all 3 teammates jump across this chasm at the same time. Make sure you kill all the enemies kind of first before you go and pick up the orb that you need to use for the objective. Because again, like a rock can literally come across these treads, hit you, and kill you. It has sent many teams to orbit, so just be aware of it. Now, another tip during this particular section, and especially when you have planted both of those orbs and opened that final door up to the boss room, use your supers. There is literally no reason not to use your supers, because just before the boss fight, in fact, to trigger the boss to spawn, you will actually get your super back guaranteed. So make sure you're expending your supers to make this final room easier, and then we get to the boss fight, which is really the main like challenging part of this Grandmaster. So the boss is a doozy. Essentially, again, you're going to activate this object, get your supers back. So if you do have something like Well of Radiance, make sure to pop it and then activate so you have a well to start in, and then you're starting it, you get your well back anyways. But as you can see right here, the boss is going to come to this kind of middle platform, and a bunch of enemies are going to spawn, and the boss is going to be shooting constant like lava balls at you. So you need to be shooting these lava balls out of the air. Like, it is definitely a problem, and you just really need to be on it. Now, the ads themselves really aren't too bad, and when they do spawn, like, as long as one person is focusing on the lava balls, the other 2 people can deal with like the red bar ads, no problem. You're gonna want to damage this boss down to the first third of her health, and then the boss is going to spawn one of the Cabal shields around her and stay inside and constantly shoot those lava balls. However, as soon as that Cabal shield spawns, 2 unstopped champions are going to spawn as well. And these guys are known to teleport out of thin air right next to you. Now, it didn't happen to us, thank goodness, but I've done this many times, and again, they will literally disappear and reappear right next to you if you're in the back area of the map right here. And this back area is generally where I like to hang out for the entirety of the boss fight, and we'll go over why more later. But if you do see these unstopped champions from a distance, try to stun them, pick them off. Like, you're probably gonna have 2 people dealing with the unstops and 1 person shooting the lava balls. And of course, if the champs are right up on you, use your supers, use your heavy, like seriously kill these champs. They're honestly more of a problem than the darn boss, because when you do kill these champs, nothing really is going to spawn. So you are just dealing with the lava balls. However, as you can see, they can still get you, so be sure to be shooting them as often as possible. Now, from here, you have 2 different options. Option 1 is send someone inside the shield to take it down. Again, you can kind of use this strat of putting the shield generator in between you and the boss, and so when she shoots at you, she'll hit the shield generator, and then just take it down to continue damaging the boss. The other option, if you have more patience, is that this boss will only shoot a finite amount of the lava balls. Eventually, she will stop shooting them entirely, so you can just wait, keep shooting the lava balls, and eventually they will stop, and then it can make taking down the shield a lot easier. But regardless of how you do it, once you take down the shield, the boss is going to be vulnerable again, and you're going to have another wave of ads you need to deal with. So kind of focus on those ads first, honestly, because they're not that many, and once you take them down, like, it's just the boss, like no more will spawn. And then you're going to slowly pick away at the boss until you get down to the last third of their health, and you have the same thing happening again. They're going to go to the very back of the map this time, and they're going to put down another Cabal shield and just keep spamming those lava balls. Now, you're also going to have 2 more unstopped champions spawn, and at this point, I would highly recommend, as I said earlier, holding out in this, section of the arena on the opposite end of where the boss is. And the reason is because, as you can see right here, the boss's lava balls cannot reach you. So you are just able to deal with the unstops on their own, and then you can literally wait. You can wait, and eventually those lava balls that, again, cannot reach you are just going to stop spawning. And that is by far the most safe approach to dealing with this Grandmaster. Now, what we did was had our Speaker Sight Warlock activate their Song of Flame, get that massive damage resistance, and just go in there and take down that shield generator to begin damaging the boss again. But again, if you don't have that, you can simply wait in essentially complete safety from the boss. Now, when you do lower the shield generator, it is DPS time. Like, you need to be completely ready to melt the boss because a bunch of ads are going to spawn and the boss is just going to charge you. But very importantly, no more champions are going to spawn. So you can focus fire the boss. Use your supers, use your heavy, and just try to kill the boss as fast as possible. And if you can nuke the boss, all the ads will despawn anyways, so it's not that big of a deal. But again, the boss will literally charge you. So you can see that we did eventually have to rotate out of that area we were holding out just to get behind the boss. But yeah, just remember, you control when you're going to break the shield and have the boss charge you. So you can wait around for supers to regen, abilities to be charged, like all that stuff until you're completely good and ready for this final push of DPS. Or again, you can use stuff like Tether and other stuff to just melt the ads and then only have the boss as well that you need to deal with. But just be aware that she's gonna come gung-ho for you. Guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.